Welcome to Talking New York Real Estate with Vince Rocco. Our show is all about the exciting world of real estate and in particular, how it relates to the luxury New York marketplace. But if you are not planning a real estate transaction in New York, we still have plenty of information you can use no matter where you are. Now, here's our show. Hello, everyone. I'm Vince Rocco in New York, so let's get right to what everyone is talking about today on the show. Agents featured in 30 Under 30 are making waves in New York City real estate by leveraging social media, innovative marketing, and deep local expertise to stand out in a very competitive market. Many of these young professionals are using platforms like Instagram and TikTok to showcase luxury listings and connect with clients in fresh, engaging ways. They also excel at networking, building strong relationships with developers, investors, and first-time buyers. By staying ahead of the market trends and embracing technology-driven tools such as virtual tours and AI-powered analytics, they streamline transactions and provide top-tier service. Their adaptability, hustle, and ability to cater to the evolving needs of modern buyers and sellers are key drivers in their success in this fast-paced world of New York City real estate. And at the table with me today are such stars: Mike Bussey from Compass, Elliot Brietta from Compass, and Jordan Silver from Brown Harris Stevens. And they join me now to discuss. But first, let me welcome my listeners and my viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. I am Vince Rocco, and this is Talking New York Real Estate. So let's go behind the headlines and inside real estate, the state of our industry.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
All right, good morning, everybody. We are back. And so, I say oftentimes that I'm really excited about this show, but this one I really am, because we're going to talk about a little bit of a difference between generations in our industry. And the real estate industry here in New York runs the gamut with people of all different ages, all different success levels, whatever. But what we're going to talk about today is the young titans, as I call it. And I think one of the shows we did in the past was called Young Titans, and how they've adopted digital technology, all of the social media apps, to a point where it is beyond super successful. And I think the three guys I have here today can really put a stamp on it and call it success. But Jordan, I want to, start with you, because you recently wrote an article in the Village Voice titled "Breaking Through New York City's Old Guard," on modernizing real estate with digital activity and collaboration. What inspired you to write that article, and what did you think was going to come out of it?
I think at that point, I wrote this when I had just closed, I believe, 10 million in sales. So I was really I felt like I needed a hook, right? You always need that hook. So that was my hook. And I was going to, and all from social media. So I feel like, okay, I have a number that, to top brokers is chump change, but to somebody making the transition from rentals to sales, it was a great, sort of pat on the back moment, though there's far ways to go. But I thought that having that under my belt, I didn't just want to be, when you Googled me, I didn't just want to be the guy who's, you see my apartment tours. That's great. But you also need traditional media. I think that's another part of media. You need the new media and the Reels and the TikTok and the YouTube, but you also need the traditional media, because a lot of your clients, especially in our industry, are maybe a little more old school. Maybe, they want to see the LinkedIn, they want to see the articles written about you, they want to see the awards, whatever it might be, that gives them more peace of mind. Whereas maybe the 25-year-old client of mine on TikTok with family money reaches out, or on Instagram reaches out. So you want to hit both crowds, right?
What I say all the time on this show, and it's become a mantra of mine, is to become memorable, right? So, in our world today, social media gives us that opportunity to become memorable, because if you start your day every day saying, how am I going to be memorable by the end of the day? When you come home at night and you say to yourself, when you close the door and it's just you or whomever, and you say, was I memorable today?
I like that.
And
that's
hopefully
cool.
The answer is yes. And if it's no, okay, so it was a bad day, maybe, and you just redo the next day. But every day you ask yourself, and every day you come home and ask yourself the same question: how can I be memorable today? And then, was I memorable? Because as you just said, People watch us on social media. People look and see. They want to know the personality behind what they're watching. Apartment videos are great. They want to know the personality. They want to know the person. They feel a personal touch. And that's one of the things I wanted to ask you, Mike, because you're also super successful on social media, but the personal feeling and the personal touch that people have with us on, not me, you guys, on social media, what is that feeling for them? Why do they feel so connected to you? Why do they want to stay connected to you? And what is that like personal feeling that they get whenever they see you guys in a video or just in a posting on social?
It's a great question. I think Jordan might be actually the better person to answer this because, for years I've had a big focus on kind of staying away from the personal aspect. I don't show my face. Nobody recognizes me on the street. But people see Real NYC Apartments and they do tend to trust us. They love the apartments that we post.
It's a great site.
Yeah, but that was always my philosophy, was kind of avoid that personal touch, as crazy as that sounds. But, I think I could pass this off to you because people know your face, they know you, they trust you.
But I've seen your page and your stuff is good because it's very much a tool, which I think is what social media for real estate is really what it needs to be, is a tool to get leads and a tool to sell listings or rent listings or get business. And I think you're utilizing it as that tool, which is like the most important aspect.
Elliot, what do you think
agree.
about the personal touch in the whole, genre of social media?
Yeah, I mean, I think that really is honestly, it is the one thing you can bring that nobody else can bring. To your point about being memorable too, it's kind of the same thing, right? It's, you're going to do the best version of you, and anyone else is going to do the best version of them. If you're trying to be somebody else, you're going to really be imitating something. But if you're doing something that feels authentic, to Jordan's point, Mike, like I think your videos are great. Your videos are great. It's because of the fact that I think everyone in this room, even you with your postings as well, we all are posting things that feel authentic to our own voice. And if you watched all three of our videos, they're very different videos in some way. Yes, they're all property, but the approach is different, or how we convey a space might be different, or the energy or the way we edit it. But the fact of the matter is it's
the personality
resonating.
of the person behind the camera, whether you're on it or not, right? That personality needs to come through.
Totally.
Correct?
Yeah, because ultimately in this business, right, like there are so many people who might know how to do the job to varying levels with a varying degree of skill, but there's a lot of people who know how to go out and do the job. Ultimately, the thing that makes someone want to work with one person over another, I think in addition to maybe a certain specialty of experience, is how does this person make me feel? Lorne Michaels used to say he interviews
Lorne
people.
Michaels, there's a name.
Yeah, he said for SNL, he would do the interviews after the auditions, and the interviews were just water cooler interviews, which is, do I want to run into you at the water cooler at 2 a.m. in the morning? And ultimately, social media, especially now, is kind of our clients' ability to water cooler interview us.
That's
At
awesome.
it is awesome and well said, but at any time of the day or night, people sun onto these sites all day, all night long. When they're supposed to be sleeping.
Doom scrolling is,
How do you
dangerous.
measure? I know, Jordan. How do you measure success from social media now? There are all kinds of sites: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, blah blah, on and on. How do you measure, or do you measure your success? You can, I guess, tap into the amount of sales or rentals you've done, but how do you really measure how successful you are currently by utilizing all of these applications?
I think the success as a real estate agent using social media as a tool, the end goal is always sales, right? And you're going to get more money from a broker commission than you will from a brand deal, unless you are, I don't know, Charlie D'Amelio. But I think to me, that is how I'm defining success. However, going viral is also very real too, because that's the step. It's what I like about it is you can break it down the same way that I learned real estate, which is like, okay, how do you close a $1,500 studio in Harlem? And I learned this very methodical way of from beginning to end. Like, well, you have, and everyone learns it in a way, you know, how do you get leads? You know, okay, you go around to apartments and take photos and post them on RentHop or whatever, because you have no listings. And then someone reaches out, and then you have to, you know, cultivate that renter and probably flip them over to another apartment that's actually available, show them 20 more apartments, 50 more apartments. And then out of those, you know, 100 leads, maybe you close 2 of them, and then, you know, or 10 of them translate to a showing. So it's like leads to showings, and then showings to closings. And then out of those 10, maybe you close 2. And I feel like it's the same with social media, where it's like, if you can post 5 times a day, like it all comes back to like, you have to make it simple. It's like, okay, post 5 times a week, not a day.
Yeah, you scared me.
But 5 times a day, like, oh my gosh.
One of my friends though does do 5 times a day, and he swears by it. I don't know if he still does, but he used to.
Does this friend have another job, or is that the job?
That is a job.
Okay,
That is the
so
full-time
there we
job.
go.
Yeah.
Call it a day, but wow, 5 times. But I get,
So-
but I
It's
get
hard to
the-
do a co-op board package and post 5 times a day.
Long-winded answer, but I feel like the success comes in being able to basically take, like, methodically take it all to like post 5 times a week, and then if something's good, it goes viral, right? And you have to listen to that and listen to that engagement. And it's like, it's always asking questions, right? It's like, why did this go viral? And then copying that in a way, but it can't be exact copy because people get bored. So it's like the creativity, but I guess it does come down to numbers, right? It's like, you want to go viral on the screen, you want to, you know, have
Totally.
money in your bank.
Totally. Mike, so you have a great presence with your Real New York City Apartment site, which I followed, and that's how you and I met long ago. But based on, or jumping from what Jordan just said, how do you find the time to do that? You post videos all the time. You post tour videos all the time. In fact, off screen before the show started, you said you forgot something at home because you wanted to go out and do some tours today. How do you find the time to do that, yet still maintain a very successful business where you get paid?
So I'm lucky because when I started this, I had a very direct goal in mind, which was to start Real NYC Apartments and kind of slowly transition that into like creating a team, because you just can't do this alone. I can't do the deals, I can't do the sales and post and do brand deals and whatnot. So I'm lucky. I have a team of 7 people now, 8 people at Compass.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and
That's incredible.
I'm so fortunate that I have agents that I work with who I trust to actually facilitate the deals while I go out and get the clients. And my business partner, Manan Shah, he does the same exact thing. He is Shah Realty, and he does a phenomenal job. So we have a ton of leads coming in, and we have a world-class team of agents that do rentals, they do sales, they do everything. And that kind of allows me to go out and focus on more of like the high-level stuff from a business perspective.
So is your primary business driven from social media?
Yeah, it's 100%.
100%.
Well, some referrals from
Jordan, what percentage would you put on it?
Probably 80, but if you really look at the pie, 100 in a way, because old friends who reached out wouldn't have reached out if they didn't see the videos.
Elliot, so you're also involved, you're also successful in business, you're also 30 under 30. In a world of, as I said before, the age in real estate runs the gamut, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I call it the old guard versus the young guard or whatever. How do you maneuver through the social media need and requirement every day, and then also keep up with your day-to-day transactions and your business?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not easy.
No. I think, this is something that I still always ask myself the balance on, right? Is because as it can get really demanding balancing all that. Ultimately, for me, the social media is a great tool, but it's a tool, right? To me, the client always
It's a
has to
tool.
come first. And the last 2 years, I was also doing my master's in the evenings and
Nice. What a-
development. So that was like clients, trying to find time to shoot or cut something together, and then 3 hours in the evening of grad school, and then trying to find time to cut together. So you just have to prioritize and balance. And sometimes, I don't know if you feel this way, I feel it's almost easier to organize my day when there's more going on, because you don't have the option to push. Like you're forced
100%.
to be more efficient. So
The more I have going on, the better I get everything done. If I have
Totally.
one thing to do,
yeah.
Sure.
well, what do we do now? Maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll do that. you
Yeah,
know?
but I think it's a client service business. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, your clients have to feel that that's the most important thing. And ultimately, like Jordan said to his point, you're making the videos, you're doing the social media. The point is to get to deals, to get to sales, to do the deals. So ultimately, that has to take first priority, and then you find the time for
Social media
other
is
things.
fine, and social media is fun, and it's a whole bunch of things. But right, ultimately, if it doesn't work out to turn into deals, then what are we doing, or why are we doing it? Jordan, though, a question, because a lot of people ask me this all the time. What are the biggest barriers for young real estate agents today? I mean, I teach real estate, as everybody knows. I talk about it on the show all the time. And when I see the ages of people coming into the new sales class next door to mine, they're coming right out of college or in some cases right out of high school. And I think, okay, so you have no business experience, you have no worldly experience. How do you think you're going to be successful in real estate? How are young people, because my perception is after the fact, not everybody, of course, but after the fact, you young guys are killing it. And so there are barriers to entry into this business. What are they, or what were they for you, and how did you overcome them?
I think because of my acting background, I always felt like that was the hardest possible path that I ever could have taken. So real estate almost felt like more of a sure thing. Like I started it as like a side hustle, and like my managers were like, when you're locked in, like you're good at, like you could be really good at this. And I was like, yeah, but like I don't want to be a real estate agent. Like that sounds
It's
like
too confining.
That's miserable. Like no way. But then, time goes on, you get older, you're like, oh damn, like I'm going to be 30. Like I'm going to need to like have a Roth IRA and like, to be able to attract beautiful women.
Gotta
like,
have that
I saw a
Roth
meme,
IRA.
like there's no ugly or olds after you're 30. There's just rich or poor.
Yeah.
And like,
Roth IRA
or
is the
ugly
ultimate
or-
thing
or
beautiful
pretty.
women ask for. First date, they're like, can you show me your Vanguard before we continue this? Yeah.
What if I
But yeah, I mean, I feel like the guard to acting was so strong that it was just like I couldn't ever feel like I didn't feel like I was making enough inroads. So here, the guards are strong, but it's like 80% of agents drop out after their first, or I don't know the exact number. Like it's maybe higher
It's
their
almost
first
an
year.
80. I say 85, but like an 80-20 rule. But 85% probably after the first year or two, just say, "Hey, this is not working for me for whatever reason."
Because
right?
similar to acting, it is competitive. It is,
Correct.
there's too many people who want it, and there's too many people that are bad at it, right? Because you can just get your
Absolutely.
license and you
Yeah.
just whatever, and they kind of half-ass it or whatever.
Right.
So I don't know. I think if you want it, like, and you present well, and you can speak well, and you can do like basic arithmetic, and like have like entrepreneurial at all sort of skills, like it will
Basic
work out.
arithmetic has always eluded me. but I get your point. I get your point. Not a problem.
I do think, though, to your point as well, like, I think a lot of people get into the business these days, especially younger and younger, because and not making a statement on, the validity of these shows or whatnot, but as more and more of these reality TV shows come out in a generation that is somewhat obsessed with status, or is at least seeing it more, like right in the 80s, or
Especially in this town.
Yeah, even in the 80s, like, okay, where did you see things that were status, like in your face? Okay, maybe you pick up a magazine, or you pick up a profile on someone
Billboard.
in the Wall Street Journal or in a billboard. Now everyone opens up their phones and they are just assaulted by things of status all the time, and that gets into your psyche. And I think there's a lot of people who get into the business because their perception is, oh my gosh, I start and I have a steak lunch and 2 glasses of wine, and I jump in a black car, and then I walk in a place and I go, marble, and then they write me a huge
That's what I do every day.
Yeah, and
Every single
and then
day.
they write me a huge check. And then people
Isn't that
get
something?
and then people get on in the business. I mean, I remember, the first week I was in this business, I was going to prep a listing for something of ours, and God bless him, remain unnamed, one of our clients was using the bathroom smoking with the door open. And I went, welcome to the glamour of New York real estate. You know, it's not all black cars. So you have
It's
to have
not
the
all
passion.
black cars, but you know, sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is,
and that's fine.
but you have to have a passion in order to get good enough
Right.
to get to black car phase.
Correct. Anyway, we have to take a break. No one is going anywhere. We have a lot more to go as Talking New York Real Estate is just getting underway on this very beautiful morning here in New York City. Don't go anywhere.
The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, we are back. Mike, so I wanted to ask you to follow on what these two guys just said. You started out very young in the business also.
Yeah.
I don't remember what you were doing beforehand, but you made a decision to become a real estate agent. And again, it's important because as we're talking about youth and younger people in this business finding major success, why did you choose it and where did you expect it to lead?
So I got into real estate kind of out of desperation. I was going to Pace in downtown Manhattan and I needed money and it was either Starbucks or real estate. And thankfully I had a guy who was like, hey, come do rentals for me in the financial district. So that's how I got into the business. And I love it. I never really had a plan going into real estate. I just assumed I could do this for a few years, meet some interesting people, go to a startup or something interesting. But I slowly realized that I just can't work for anyone else. I do not want to work for anyone else. And real estate's a ton of fun. The highs and the lows are phenomenal. And the people that you meet are incredible. I've met my business partners, some of my best friends in the entire world who were former clients,
I totally
which is
agree.
so exciting, you know?
My best friends, and I've said that for years, since I'm working in real estate 23 years, and some of my best friends ever have come from real estate.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we work together, we see each other all the time, and, you know, a lot in common, whatever. So, yeah, I get that. But the energy that's required, though, to work as diligently as you guys all do, whether it's posting on social media, whether it's collecting leads from those social media posts, whether it's running around and doing deals and transactions, there's a lot of energy that is necessary in this business. How do you find it? You know, where does it, you know, some mornings like this morning I woke up and said, I haven't done the show in 3 weeks, believe it. Can I do it today? Do I want to just roll over and stay in bed, maybe have a cup of coffee and then figure out the rest of my day? And I'm like, no, you got to go. You got to do it. It is what it is. The show must go on. Where do you get the energy from? And it's a lot of required energy, believe me.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I could speak. When I first graduated college, I was producing talk shows, and that was a very busy career, but I never had the
I know
passion.
that.
I never had the passion for it that I have for this. So I would sometimes
Really?
sleep in and, you know, I'd wake up right before I had to like go to my first meeting, or sometimes I'd go in and even though it was interesting, right, there were fun stories, I didn't feel the same level of passion. And that's why I left. Like they offered me a job to come back and I said, I don't think I'm happy here. And when I found real estate, it was this thing where it was like, oh, I love this and I'm passionate about it. And ultimately, I think for me at least, what fuels me is the combination of just really enjoying, I mean, especially in this city, like we're walking into art pieces sometimes, like these pre-war buildings. It is like walking inside a Monet or something because you just can't replicate
You're so
them.
right. Absolutely.
It's a gift to get to do this and to meet great people. So that fuels me, and also the reality of the job, right? Which is like you have to do your own farming of leads. You have to be your own mechanism.
You have to create a persona. I mean, one of the nicest things, you know, when I'm running around the city, you know, and with a customer or just getting someplace without a customer, and somebody says, "Hey, Vince, how are you?"
Totally.
And I'm like, "Wow!" Like I ran into you
In
not
the
too
West
long ago,
Village,
right?
yeah, a couple weeks ago.
And I'm like, "Wow." You know, when I worked in corporate America, no one but my computer knew who I was, right? Who cares? But you become recognizable. You become, you know, known with your other colleagues and stuff in the city. So it's a lot of work. But again, I agree with you. It's one of the I've done a lot of things, including teaching full time way back whenever. But there is nothing in my world that makes me happier than real estate. You know, and then being able to talk about it in a venue like this is even better. But it takes a lot of energy. But if you do it right, it's fine. Jordan, based on that article you wrote, a month or two ago, did any, of the seasoned industry veterans, as I call old guard, view anything that you said as, well, they're just young and they're just, Instagram people or TikTok people, and what do they really know and whatever? How do the old guard really relate to what, I consider myself part of the old guard because I've been in the business for many, many years, but I'm very social media savvy. I get it. I understand it. I think we can't live without it, even in our industry. But did you get any pushback from the older guard in regards to, well, why is he writing that? Who cares about social media? I teach social media, and every once in a while there'll be somebody in my class, seasoned professionals, who say, I don't use it. I don't have time for it. What does it do for you? I'm like, why are you here? You have an interest? Why are you here? That's where we start, okay? And then I get it out of them.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think there's definitely the more seasoned agents that I do at this point understand a little bit better why maybe a couple years ago when I was reaching out on Street Easy, like, hey, can I shoot a video of your gorgeous $20 million listing? Why they were like, F off. So like that to me felt very much like I needed to break through that. And now 80, 90% of agents, maybe less, honestly, maybe 70% are like, yeah, sure, come shoot it. Sometimes they say, no, not this time, or the owner doesn't want the exposure, and like totally understand. But I think that it was that feeling of like, oh, I feel like I have this really cool tool and I really want to like bring it to your listings. But I can also understand for a variety of reasons why other agents are kind of like, no, like I don't want you to come social media my listing. And I understand that at the time I didn't, but now I think I do a little bit better.
But the perception of the old guard, and I apologize, I don't mean any disrespect by that. I'm part of the old guard. But but a lot of old guard agents in this industry for years and years and years kind of look at what a lot of the youth, younger guys and gals are doing on social media, saying, but I already have a very successful business. Why do I need to do that? And I remind them, these folks are younger, entering this business, which is very strong, very competitive, very whatever. They're trying to find a hook to get interest.
It's an edge too, right? It's something. You have to have something, otherwise, because we don't have the 20 years of experience.
Exactly.
So then I get to tell sellers, hey, I have a social media page that's not just social media. It's a tool that you can really utilize, that other agents hire me to showcase their listings, and other sellers trust me to showcase their listings, and it directly results in sales.
And I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy all of your pages, because I also watch you all the time, and I learned something. So I might be doing this for 23 years, but I learned something, right? Especially, a lot of the stuff that you're putting out, well, all of you. But if I can't sit back and say, I'm learning, it's not just a fodder for entertainment or whatever. I actually learned something. I hear what you're all saying. I'm watching what you're presenting, and I'm like, okay, that could apply to me, or I could do the same thing. Not as effective, right? But maybe. But I embrace it, or I appreciate it, and I kind of get offended sometimes when folks who have been around for a long time say, what is that all about?
Sure.
I mean, I worked at IBM many years ago, and when we first started selling email, email, and people were like, what is that? Sure. I don't need email. Yeah. Email.
Right.
And then we came out with voicemail. What? I don't want to listen to people on my voicemail. The secretary can give me the pink slip and tell me somebody called me. I'm like, no.
Well,
right? That's how old I am. Now, the same people, if they're still around, are saying, hey, social media, what do I need that for? I don't get it.
Well, I have a question for these guys too, because I know for me, some aspect of this too that I think is really important in like when you're breaking in and you're starting and you're growing is doing these videos is not just a marketing tool. To be honest, it's a huge knowledge opportunity and networking opportunity for agents like us, because you're getting to know probably a more seasoned agent than you at that point that you're filming their listing. You're getting to form a relationship. The video does well. It makes them look great and engenders a nice feeling so that next time you go to one of their listings, maybe with a client, oh, great, we have an established relationship. You're getting to see more product than you would as a beginning agent by getting into these spaces. So you're getting more knowledge. I think that doing these videos is a great marketing tool, but it's just as valuable, especially in the beginning, for people who are going about it the right way, to nurture those relationships with the older guard that's open to letting you through a door. And I think that that's equally as important for me of what I gained from the process. I wonder if that's been your experience.
Absolutely. I remember last year when I just joined BHS and I was shooting a listing for Lisa Littman, everyone was like, oh my God, like that's Lisa Littman. And that, of course, then you...
And I'm Jordan.
No, then you cherish that and you really do, it's like, then you start seeing that name on every top list and you say, okay, like, this is very cool, right? And you have to kind of like honor that you are getting a meeting with certain brokers, certain agents who get certain opportunities to be, doing podcasts or shooting listings for agents or whatever it might be. So it's opportunities that are so exciting. You listed off so many amazing things I think it brings, and ultimately it's the opportunities, right?
Totally.
That it can provide, which is crazy. But I agree with everything that you listed off.
And Lisa Littman, by the way, is a superstar. We love her dearly here. Mike, so has success become more about influence and thought leadership rather than just sales? I mean, what's the most important? Now, we all talk about, we want to get leads. We want to close that deal. But is it more about influence, or is it about really the end game getting sales? Because we all know that influence is important, right, in any industry.
Yeah, maybe I just don't have that like ego. I definitely have an ego, but maybe not that type of ego where like I don't care for influence. I just want to make a great living and build a great company. The followers, and I'm sure you guys get this, the followers are nice, but it's just a means to an end at the end of the day. Is like, again, I don't enjoy the kind of perks of like having a huge following or being like an influencer, because nobody knows who I am, which is amazing. Occasionally I'll get DMs. What?
Well, it's almost looking at it as more of it's strictly a tool.
Exactly.
It's strictly generate, close deals, and it works. And that's what success, I think, is when you define it, you see it clearly, you know what it's about.
Do you get recognized on the street?
Sometimes.
See, that's my fear. People catch my voice sometimes, and that scares me.
I recognize the voice.
Yeah,
for sure.
I recognize the voice
clean.
too. I know
It's
him, but
very
I recognize him too. I recognize him now as well, a newer friend. But
Same.
by the way, but this is all content creation, which can turn into recognizability, influence. Because look, we all want to be influential in what we do, not like these vapid internet influencers, but we want to be influential in what we do, right? We need people to understand. Look, I've said for many, many years, and I say this when I'm teaching as well, how many agents do we have in this town? 100,000 agents in all boroughs? I mean, some sick number like that? Look, not everybody's the 80-20 rule, right? Probably 90-10 rule. 10% are doing all the deals and 90% are doing nothing.
I think it's less than
Yeah,
that. I gotta be honest.
Maybe even less than that. So, but regardless of what that percentage is, we want to fit into that known category, that influential category. Even if you don't have a great year, people still are going to remember who the hell you are because of who or how you presented yourself. And I think, becoming a leader in our industry is probably just as important as, the transactions. And of course, we all want the transactions so we can keep our head above water and continue to live. But I think the content that we put out there has got to be expert. It's got to be credible. And we've got to be able to touch people somehow, in, hey, I want to follow that person again. Hey, I like what I'm seeing. Or, hey, these videos are, top quality, whatever. Technology changes constantly. I mean, again, I started working at IBM, and I remember the days and I joked about the email stuff. But where we've come from then to today, and who knows what just tomorrow is going to bring, or another year or two from now is going to bring, it changes constantly. How do you all, or do you think about keeping up with it? I mean, at all?
All the time. Yeah, I had someone, I don't know if people ever bring this up to you guys, I had someone come to me recently and they go, hey, I can perfectly recreate your voice with AI.
Wow.
You'll never have to make another video ever again.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do it. I don't know. That feels kind of cheap to me.
Yeah.
But it changes.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's also, it just seems lazy. And like, I don't know. But technology is changing in like a disgusting amount every single day, especially with AI right now.
Well,
and
AI
it's-
is a little cuckoo.
It's scary.
It's very scary. I mean, I like it, but it's a little,
There's this. I thought it was a poster for a horror movie. Apparently, it's a real ad that was on Columbus and between 72nd and 71st on the Upper West where I live, and it just is on a bus stop, and it's for an AI company. It says, "Stop hiring humans."
Yep, I saw
and
that.
I went, that is the most terrifying
With the
thing
human
I've
face on
ever.
it,
I was
too.
like, yeah, with the human face. I was like, this is. Technology, I think,
I
is
have not
good,
seen
but
that.
some
I
of
probably
it
would
is
stop
horror.
this
one in
Yeah,
Chelsea,
some of
too.
it is just
really.
Yeah.
horrifying. I mean, I think with the AI thing, I feel the same way. Like, I wouldn't want someone to generate my voice because ultimately, the only thing that really is going to keep all of us relevant is what we've been talking about this whole conversation past AI is what do you bring? How do you engage? Someone asked,
There you go.
I was having a dinner with a financial advisor. He's like, oh, do you think your industry will go from AI? Do I? And I go, no, because I think at the end of the day, someone who's making that big of a decision, something that impacts their family, impacts a huge aspect of their net worth, they want to look someone in the eyes, even if it's a fallible human being like we all are, but someone who they trust and say, do you think I'm doing the right thing? And all the deals we do likely are incited by some kind of major life event. And they can lead to instability. And I think we can provide a hand to hold.
Mike, other than social media, okay, and we've talked about social media. We'll continue to talk about social media because it's going to go on and on and on, forever and ever. How else do you differentiate yourself in a very crowded field of real estate agents, real estate, everything here in New York? How do you differentiate yourself other than the use of social media?
A big thing that we have internally at the company, which we don't kind of talk about a lot, but we call it shopping with a friend. It's like our philosophy around working with clients because real estate is kind of like an icky industry sometimes. People have really bad experiences. They don't like brokers a ton. So we call it shopping with a friend. It's our way of differentiating ourselves. We're like, if you're going and looking at apartments, you should feel like you're with your best friend who just happens to know everything about apartments. And people love
I agree
it.
with that.
People are so excited. I have clients, people always joke when you're in real estate, you're kind of a therapist half the time. Maybe you're a marriage counselor.
Marriage counselor.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
all of the above, trust me.
Which is great. And it's really an honor.
But I like that
people-
aspect of it all.
Yeah,
I like
100%.
it. Yeah, I
And it's
love
really nice when people trust you with these things because you don't want to be that slimy broker that they're working with.
No. Jordan, how do you differentiate yourself? I mean, networking, a great buzzword in our industry. How do you differentiate aside from or outside of social media in this business to keep you at the level of performance that you have?
It's a good question.
Do you network a lot? or-
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, what else do I do in
What else do
addition
you do?
to? Oh, yeah. I'm always meeting people. Like, and I think I read in Ryan Serhant's book years ago about how he's like, talk to 3 people at least every single
Absolutely.
day.
I remember that, yeah.
Exchange contact information. Like, I like very
He's
simple
so right,
things.
though.
It's
He's
true.
so
It's
right.
very simple.
Yeah.
Like, follow these simple instructions and like something will probably happen, right? Like unless I do also think you need to be a genuinely good person. And like, I do actually care about like, I try and meditate every day. I missed this morning, but you have to find your things that ground you. I need to go to the
I've
gym
been
every
wanting to
day.
do that for years. It's not working for me.
Whatever it is for you, I like reading self-improvement books, like to truly learn about my psychology and other people's psychology. And, I just think the human aspect of it, like you were saying, like I'm very like coming from this sort of like artistic creative background. I think I've always been curious about human nature and people, but also genuinely caring and wanting them to succeed. I think energy is very like, it's kind of woo-woo, karmic, but it is like what you give, you get, and what it's, and that's kind of very much, I don't know, I think looking into like mindfulness, working out, meditation, and then also like just partying and having fun. Like I like that too.
But I'm thinking about your artful background. I started out wanting to be an actor and a this and a that and a
That's
whatever.
why we get along so well.
Correct. But so I think that's helped me through the years, being more of a people person, right? Be out there, take names, introduce who you are, don't be shy, whatever. How do you network, or do you network outside of social media to get that, client base to stay there?
I definitely do outside of social media. To me, I think to what Jordan was saying, like sometimes the most powerful thing about networking, especially in a city like this, but I think you could really do it anywhere, is like just taking the opportunity to try to initiate a conversation with people can lead to so much. Like, you know, I live on the Upper West Side. I live by Cafe Luxembourg. I'm probably there more than I should
Great
be.
spot.
It is like it is like my Cheers. So if you want to find me on a weeknight, you know, your chances
I
are
told
pretty
you how
good.
many years ago I discovered that place. I'm really old. I
No.
love Cafe Lux.
But it's amazing.
Yes.
But I can go there and have dinner at the bar, and the people that I have met there,
100%.
and you just have real conversations. And a lot of times, you know, I wait for them to say, "What do you do?" You know, and I think that's a key part of.
And that's
be
such a
out
common
there.
question. So what do you
Yeah.
do? You know, what do you do, right? Everybody wants to know,
Yeah.
but you're right.
But don't you know, I think.
No, you don't force yourself on
Yeah, I think you got to network, but the networking, to Jordan's point, it
Always
has to
have
be
your
about.
cards with you, though.
Yeah, it has to be of being a good person and just being a genuine person. And if people feel that you are just being a genuine, nice person, you have a great conversation, even if it's not about real estate, that could go so much further
100%.
for you than sitting there and trying to inject, and I have a listing, and it's really great, and you should move, and, you know, here, show me pictures of your apartment. You know, like, that's not going to win anybody over.
It is not. And with that, we have to take a break. No one's going anywhere. We're coming right back, talking New York real estate right here on the More Network. Don't go anywhere.
This podcast is supported by the More Network, powered by Brown Harris Stevens. Real estate touches every aspect of our lives, from design and architecture to investing and the economy. Now there's a way to get all your real estate information in one place. The More Network. With more than 20 podcast and webcast series, the Mastery of Real Estate Network is powered by Brown Harris Stevens, one of the country's most distinguished brokerages. Discover advice from notable entrepreneurs, compelling topics, and access to top global real estate experts. Subscribe to their YouTube and Apple podcast channels by visiting GetMoreNetwork.com.
We talked about networking. We talked about keeping client relationships. But I want to ask a couple of follow-up questions on the client relationship stuff. So we always think that, you know, we have to maintain client relationships after we do a transaction. One of the worst things we can do is completely forget about them and move on to the next transactional agent, as I like to call them, versus a relationship agent. Jordan, how do you maintain relationships with your clients after a transaction is done, whether it was through social media lead, whether it's through networking lead, whatever it might be? How do you maintain? Because I really maintain that that is the most important part of our jobs.
See, and I don't. I just collect the check, never speak to them again. They know how this works. No, I love keeping in touch with, especially when there's good energy between you and the client, right? Like, not all clients I want to keep in touch with.
No.
Some of them I choose not to, and I'm sure they choose not to as well. But in general, I'd say it's a very high percentage of clients that I get along with well enough, especially if it's a buyer or a seller. If the deal is, you know, a worthwhile deal, like I'll get you the Cartier keychain, like I'll take you to dinner at Crane Club, like I'll get you the black cars, like it, because people want the experience. After the deal too, I'll take you to the Broadway show. Like,
And we want the referrals. Let's be honest, right?
Totally.
You know, people refer us. That's how we get business.
And if it's someone that you genuinely enjoy too, then it like doesn't have to be this weird transactional thing, and it could actually be like this. Just kind of feels like me treating a friend, which I love doing. So it's cool when you do actually feel like it's like, oh, it's a client friend, right? Like that's the best. So it becomes less sort of strategic at times and just more organic and kind of thinking, oh, I thought of Matt. Oh, we should go get dinner. Like I really like Matt, you know, like, and you take him out to dinner, and it's kind of just this lifetime deal.
That goes a long way. And again, regardless of where your lead comes from, when you delight a customer and you like a customer, I mean, I've become friends with several of my customers through the years. I mean, really good friends. And sometimes you start out thinking, I don't know, really, whatever. And then over time, it just grows into a friendship, which is a wonderful thing. And again, leads come from there. Referrals come from there. How do you maintain relationship after the deal is done?
So Jordan just said the perfect word, which was in my head the whole time, is I do it in a very organic way. If I want to be friends with this person, I will continue to be friends with this person. I don't like to be transactional in that sense, because sometimes it's very obvious. Hey, what's going on? You know?
Correct.
But I've said it a million times. Every time I'm on the show, I say it. Social media is our new Christmas card. I don't need to send out a Christmas card or a birthday card to stay top of mind.
That's well said. Yeah. you
Yeah,
thought of it
because
that way.
every time people log onto social media, they see our videos, they see our accounts, like they think of us. But you do have to constantly touch base. And if there's someone that I'm particularly fond of, yes, we will stay friends for a very long time. Like I said, some of my best friends in the entire world are clients, or even clients, which is so funny that the deal never went through. Like, we worked together and they found another place and we're still friends years later.
Oops.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
It happens.
Yeah.
I was gonna say shit happens, but question to you. Okay, so social media. We love social media. We can't live without social media, whatever. But what challenges did you face at the start of your career coming into a new profession, a new industry, and how did you overcome them? Again, social media obviously helps, but when we first walk in, I came from corporate America and I was said, here's your desk, here's your phone, here's your computer. Good luck, my manager did. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
What do I do now? What do you do?
For me, I have to say, and I'm thrilled that I went about it this way. I was leaving TV. My 28th birthday was when I got my job in real estate. So I knew, okay, I'm a little behind now. I want to learn as much as I can. I'd been on this salary job. So I got a job
That's a biggie.
I got a job doing operations for a really experienced team, and I had my license, but the amount of deal flow I was able to see doing every board package for our team, handling all the listing draft, all the document drafting, all of that.
Great learning experience.
It teaches you so much. And I think that's a way that you can really, if you're fortunate enough like I am to work on a really great team under a broker who's really seasoned, you can learn a tremendous amount in an accelerated amount of time. You're going to see and be a part of deals that you're just not going to be a part of normally in the first couple of years of your career, especially as someone who I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona. So, coming out here, I think finding ways like that to plug in and really learn, your knowledge can be a differentiator, but you have to humble yourself sometimes to take the knowledge, even if it's being in an office and asking some of these older guard people, saying, would you give me 10 minutes of your time to pick your brain or to preview a listing? I think that's a great way when you start out to really start growing and differentiating yourself.
Jordan, you didn't grow up here either, correct?
No.
Right. So from a cultural perspective and coming from an arts background, how did you, or what challenges did you face, and how did you overcome them? Simply just a cultural change can be shocking to most people. I grew up in New York, so none of that was new to me. But for people who come from other places, what were the challenges, and how did you eventually overcome them? Yeah, social media was a great assist, but what else?
New York did always feel like home to me because as a kid, I grew up in Maryland, very small town, went to a theater camp in upstate New York, and I was always coming to visit my friends. I was coming to visit my high school girlfriend, staying at her beautiful Upper East Side townhome, and I got very introduced.
Boy.
Well, I got introduced to
That's not a challenge.
to this
She
luxury,
got away, man.
to this to LA, but I was introduced to this luxury life
funny.
coming from a very humble, small, lower middle class family, and this just became baseline to me then, and I think growing up in the city, I was coming here every weekend. We were going out to One Oak, rest in peace. We were going out to all these clubs that at one point were very cool and, with the fake IDs. So I always felt really ingrained, like a city kid almost without being a city kid. So I think I kind of got the best of both worlds where I got to remain, a slight amount of suburban purity. But then I also was corrupted by the city quite early on.
That happens.
Exactly.
That happens.
Exactly, which is why we get along so well. But yeah, so it always felt like home to me. I don't think the challenges of the city ever felt like challenges other than what they are now. It's really freaking loud and I hate that. Like I can't take a business call and like it's without a siren going off. So like it's my sort of like,
Especially at 2 o'clock in the morning when a screaming fire truck goes by. I'm like,
yeah, right.
I'm just dreaming.
Yeah.
And now you're ruin that dream.
So the city was always kind of like a playground for me in a way, and I think approaching it with that energy is like the best way to do it, rather than being overwhelmed by it, scared by it, challenged by it. It's always been a fun place for me that's felt like home.
Mike, talk to us a little bit about niche markets or different segments of markets in here in New York City. Is there niches that you focus on? You want to focus on? Did you start out focusing on and then slowly changed? What are some of the niches for you that made sense initially, and then how did you grow past that and add to those?
Yeah, so we started out exclusively doing rentals in the financial district. It was just a very easy market. There's a lot of OPs out there. You never had to collect a broker fee. Now, our big focus is probably the biggest niches, which is luxury rentals, just because that is a very consistent business. Yeah. And then luxury sales are huge. We have members of our team, who focus very much on uptown. They do a lot of listings and seller side stuff. So we're kind of all over the place, but the bread and butter will always be, rentals from, 4 to 10,000, and then sales from like 1 to 5 million. And that is
those are two
really
nice niches, mister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not so bad.
Yeah.
Good goals. What about you? What are your niches? You focus on anything in particular? Do you want to grow from that to something else?
I think niche-wise, I don't particularly, some people say like, I'm just going to focus on one neighborhood per se or something like that. As far as the niche goes for me, the thing that I've tried to really turn more into a niche is kind of knowledge and historical knowledge and perspective of these buildings in these amazing spaces. So, obviously part of the reason I went and got my master's in development was because I want to develop in the future, but also being able to understand a new dev in a different way potentially, because I know the back part of that and all the Excel spreadsheets and the underwriting. And when I first started in the business, I would go home at the end of the day, and while I was watching TV, I'd go on Street Easy and I'd pick an iconic building and I'd go back as far as they had in the listing history, and I just click every listing and be like, what's that floor plan like? What's that line like? What was that? This looks like one of the best units in the building. And I think going through and doing that now, and even reading books like House of Outrageous Fortune and 740 Park Avenue.
You read that?
I read that
book?
book.
Oh, my, two of them.
I read both those.
Real estate books.
And you've had him on the podcast. He's
I did.
amazing.
House of Outrageous Fortune. Wow.
Incredible book. But reading those books and going through, I have a book that I paid way too much money for that's just the old floor plans of J.R. Carpenter and Rosario Candela, and it's this big coffee table book.
Yeah.
But reading through these things, to me, I guess the niche that I wanted to go for was just how can I know a little bit more and have some more context and then speak to those things to clients.
When I was a brand new agent, young brand new agent, 23 years ago, somebody grabbed me aside and said, we think you're going to be really good. However, one of the things I've noticed, and I've mentioned this on the air before, is that you're trying to do this. Okay, you're trying to grab it all, and I was. And he said, no, you need to pick a niche. And you need to focus on that niche for a while, get really good in that niche, and then expand it. So I go home and I'm thinking, what the heck? I mean, I want to do everything. I want to sell all over the place. Our new development division was just starting. And so a friend of mine happened to be working in it. And she said, this is not for me. And I've already spoken to the president of our development division, who's still here, and I love him dearly. Will you be perfect in that? And I'm thinking, was that a niche? I mean, it's selling real estate, but is that really a niche? Turns out, I went and talked to him. He's like, you got it. And for years and years and years, I'm not going to get into the weeds, but for years and years and years, I did almost exclusively new development, killed it for years and years and years, loved every minute of it, enabling me to branch out and to do other things on the resale side and the rental side, whatever it was. But that was my niche that worked out really well. And I think that everybody starting out needs to kind of figure something out that they want to focus on and do, because you got to do it well. Which leads me to our last question. In the few minutes we have left, Jordan, what advice would you give younger agents who are trying to break into this field? As I said, when I look at the classroom next door to mine, and I see all of these young agents coming in there with really no business experience, no experience at all. What advice would you give young agents starting out in the business today that can get them to a point where they last in the business, they stay in the business, and they become successful? Is there simple advice, or is it a lot more complicated than that?
I guess to boil it down, and like you were saying, like you have to want to learn, and I think if you want to learn and you remain open and you remain sensitive, you're going to encounter a lot of different types of people. Some people will actually want to help, some won't. That's okay. You're just, I don't know. I think it's a total journey, right? It's like life. Like it's big. It's a very big path, I think, to take for anyone.
Yeah.
So the advice has to be so tailored to each person, because like you're starting your own business. Like you have to want it.
You are starting your own business.
You
your
have
own little
to
candy
want it.
store, as I call it.
Yeah. And
100%.
if you don't, that's okay. That's also
Right.
okay.
And people decide or opt out over time. What about you, Mike? What kind of advice? New people join your team, never done this before, new people that you're aware of in the office or whatever, come and say, hey, Mike, I'm brand new. I don't know what to do. What do you tell them?
So it's two big things, which, when you're in real estate, these are the two things. It's connections and then just experience. And they're both very hard to get.
Yeah.
From the experience end, I always say to people, find other agents, get on their deals. Don't even ask for a piece, but just be on the email, see how the board package is done, see how they chat with clients. That's a free experience, and it doesn't take a ton of work. You're just kind of observing, and that's really, really helpful. The second thing is the connections. It's so easy, especially in the summer, and I'm going to do this today. Just walk to random buildings that you've never seen before. Go on Street Easy, pick a list of 5, meet the doorman, meet the sales office, meet the leasing team.
Oh my God, so well said.
Because if you know people in that building, lack of experience is 100% made up by going, hey, I'm really good friends with Greg. He can take care. He'll know how to help with this deal. And that's just the best way to do
That
deals.
is so true. Advice to younger agents?
I mean, I think with these guys, that is tremendously good advice, and people should definitely take that. I think just to add something new to those great things, I would say I think a lot of success in this business is about being able to put space between hearing something or experiencing a situation and how you respond to it. Because so much of the reason for us in this job, in the service we provide, is if you had a client, a buyer and a seller, it's all emotion, it's immediate reactivity. It's, in this job, you're going to hear clients tell you things that are abrasive to hear. You're going to hear other agents maybe deal with you in a way that you don't like to be dealt with. The key to success is, and whether that be reading kind of self-help mindset books or getting to the gym in the morning or meditating, whatever it is to put yourself together, try to refine the skill of being able to have something happen and put a bit of distance to process, even if it's just a few seconds before you respond, so that you can conduct yourself in a way that is really going to help not only you and your reputation, but your clients get to the best results.
My first manager
100%.
said within my first year, you're way too emotional. You need to highlight
That's
the word.
that actor in you.
You need to highlight the word detach and boiling it down to that word of what, that's exactly what I was thinking when you were saying that, is that's all detachment. It's, and not like detachment
No.
of like a cold,
Yeah.
but it's
take the
that
emotion
deeper,
out of it and-
right.
yep.
It's so hard. It's so, just this morning.
It's an endless process,
Yeah.
but I think it's important for people to learn that to be truly successful.
It absolutely is. All right, a programming note here. Jordan Silver here is going to appear on a panel tomorrow. Unfortunately, we don't drop the show until the day after, but tomorrow at the Real Estate Board of New York, it's called Rebney Next. How is social media changing the real estate industry? Impressive panel I saw it the other day. They're going to talk about building trust and visibility through their content. And I always say when I'm teaching social media, content is king, okay? Attracting high-volume clients organically through paid media and turning engagements into real estate transactions, which he does and all of them do. It's quite astounding to the old guard, but nonetheless very recognized. And we will be right back with my thoughts of the week, so don't go anywhere.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my thoughts for this week. So, New York City's old guard in real estate is facing a shifting landscape as the new generation of 30 under 30 stars gains momentum. While some seasoned professionals view these young agents as disruptors, others are adapting by embracing their fresh perspectives and digital-first strategies. Traditional firms are increasingly integrating social media marketing, tech-driven tools, and innovative networking tactics to stay competitive. Some veteran brokers are mentoring young talent, recognizing that the collaboration can be more beneficial than competition. However, resistance still exists, with some established players skeptical of the flashier, influencer-driven approach many young adults use to attract clients. Ultimately, the old guard is being forced to evolve, balancing decades of experience with the ability and modern strategies that the next generation brings to the table. And in my opinion, that is how you stay fresh and current, and as I always say, memorable. So cheers, guys. You're killing it. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guests for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Substack, or TikTok. Is that not enough? At Vince Rocco. And Amanda Knox says, look around the world and see where the broken pieces are, and then see where your broken pieces fit. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am grateful, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.